I feel like I now know what they're doing on Severance.
Oh, I haven't watched the last episode. Don't ruin it for me.
I'm not going to ruin it for you, but okay, the macro data processing.
Yes.
They are actually HR people filtering resumes.
It's mysterious and important work. That's hilarious.
That's what I took away from last night. I was like, okay, that's what they're doing. I don't, they feel scared. Sometimes you look at a resume, you have feelings, you categorize it.
Totally. 100%. What are the scary numbers,
What exactly. This is Supercharged by AI, a podcast by AI Portland. I'm Megan, no Tarte,
I'm Nicole.
partner at Cloud4. That's Nicole. You'd introduce yourself today.
I'm Nicole Moores, product design manager at Lithium Motors, and Megan's co-conspirator in all things AI Portland and beyond.
And beyond. Infinity and beyond?
Yeah.
So now that we've solved the key mystery of Severance, I think we can talk about last night's.
I honestly feel like that theory, even up to what I've watched so far, like holds water.
I do too. I mean, last night, Tim was talking about, there was a ton of interest at our AI in your job search event last night around like what HR ATS systems look like on the back end.
Yeah.
This is not really an AI question, but when he was describing kind of how they like batch through resumes and everything, I was like, it feels like that.
Yeah, it totally is. First of all, LinkedIn Recruiter is only like $129. I know people looking for work probably are like $129, but like
100%.
then you can kind of see like how it highlights the keywords and it will zero in on certain resumes. I honestly, I don't know. I found it kind of fascinating when I've used it for hiring. It's not good,
Yeah.
You might have like existential this is how we're doing it sort of feelings.
I sort of thought after, so our panel, we had an amazing panel. Our event was co-sponsored with HR Annie's and True Calling Recruiting. And I actually was sort of, again, so we've done this event a year ago. Basically, I mean, a similar event. Nicole, and you and I are both like infinitely curious all the time about what the hell is happening in the job market. So we'll do this event all the time. But I was also once again shocked at like the way these folks are talking about using in these ATS systems and filtering resumes sounds exactly like it always has been.
Yeah, I think so. I think people are just like this year versus last year a little bit more technically savvy about how they could use the tools. I just feel like there was a finer point on the conversation this year where last year just like people are using, the overwhelming theme to me was like, don't just blanket use these tools, right?
These tools being AI tools.
AI tools. Don't just use ChatGPT and spit out something and use that. Like the idea of being very deliberate about how you're using the tools to hone in on things and like make what you're doing better. Not do what you're doing, but make what you're going to do better. Like customize your resume based off of a job posting or analyze a job posting. You know what I mean? But like that, whatever it is you're doing should be very unique and targeted to you.
Yeah. So that is an evolution, I guess. I feel like when we were talking about this last year, people were still like, oh my God, AI is preventing me from getting a job.
I still think they were like, should I, shouldn't I? You know what I mean? Yeah. Just very much like on the fence about whether or not they should use it altogether. Also, I think last year we were still, I hate to say this, I think we were almost in a better place.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Tell me more about the good place
Well,
of
maybe
2024.
the federal government hadn't laid off half of the people that work there.
100%.
Maybe that.
Yeah.
Maybe like the most stable jobs ever to have existed were still
Are gone.
stable.
Yeah.
Now they're not.
Yeah. That's true.
I feel like we were like, what's happening? And now we're like, what? We know what's happening and this is bad, you know?
Yes. Although I will say, like, vibes in the room didn't feel sad and downtrodden.
No,
Did you think? I don't.
I did not. I felt like people really want to understand the ATS systems. There was a very palatable, like, I can't get past the ATS to a human for the person to see that I'm well qualified for this position, to give me just an interview. Like, I'm not even getting, no one's looking at it. And I think that's how people felt.
Oh, gosh, this one moment. One of the last questions, we had to power through a speed question at the end.
I love that.
I actually did too. I love playing like.
Wait, can we talk about? I know what you're going to talk about, but this one person was like, "Look," and this is what I legit just watched a video with Jared Spool where he was like, "You cannot mass apply." So go back a couple of years, it was a numbers game. You just applied to a bunch of shit and you would get interviews. Like that worked. That's not working. Yeah. And Jared was like, you have to look at every job posting, only apply to the things you really think you could do the job right now and that you feel excited about. Then he was like, make a spreadsheet, like list out all the things. Can you do it right now? How passionate do you feel about it? If the number equates to higher than a 45, apply to that job, and then make sure all your materials support that job with the keywords and the things, and that you tell a story with every bullet. Holy shit, that's a lot of work. And one person in our audience was like, I make this, what did he call it?
He had like the spreadsheet. He had that spreadsheet.
He had a spreadsheet.
The one you're talking about?
No, he called it a specific thing. I wrote it down because he made a special document that's not a resume and that is not a cover letter, a special document that would be like, here's where I line up to every specific thing, right? And he sent that along with his materials, and he's like, is anyone going to see that special thing that I made for this job and myself? And Tim's like, no one's going to fucking see that.
He literally just said, no. Admittedly, it was the speed answer part of our session, but
suitability map. That's what this person called it. And I'm like, that guy should get a job. He's making suitability maps for every position.
I was like running to the other side of the room, and Tim said no, and I was like, heartbreaking.
Yes,
because everybody's trying so hard. You know, I think something very interesting to me is that on both sides of the hiring equation, both parties are trying so hard, and we're just at this moment where there's so much competition and like so much technology that just increases the competition.
Yes.
That it's just really hard to get through.
Yeah, recruiters, everyone, they are in just they're in arguably just as bad a position because they have to wade through hundreds.
So much.
Tim said that when they post a position on New Relic, they'll have 500 applicants in a day. How does a human person get through that? Well, they don't. Yeah. They use a system that puts them into buckets. Yes, no, maybe, right? As soon as they get to 10 yeses, they're done. They'll probably have a person within that 10. That's 490 no's and maybes, you know what I mean?
Or ignores. Yeah.
I think before I rudely got excited about suitability maps.
No, that's what I was going to say.
Oh, really? I thought you were going to talk about the person who essentially was seeing that there was a lot of ageism in the interview process. Oh, no. And like that she like, even if she gets past the ATS system, that the first person she will be screened by is a younger person. Like, she's like, I'm supposed to relate to this 22-year-old in the screen who holds my future in their hands. And
yeah.
I was like, I have a lot of thoughts and feelings as someone who's entering into middle age life.
You're 27. I don't know what
Yeah.
both of us are. We're one of the youngs.
I will say the internal recruiters at my company are like younger adults, you know. I'm not gonna like be as like flippant and be like, they're kids, you know.
That was a generalization probably, but
yeah, totally. But
the sentiment is real.
The last screeners I have encountered in the universe have all been young. And if you think about like who you can get for that type of position, maybe at that sort of pay, is probably going to be a younger in their career type person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but like Tim talked a lot about like candidate experience, you know, and Robin, who I really enjoyed on the panel, he also talked about the candidate experience being a reflection of the company's culture, you know what I mean? And like how the steps in that experience should support it. All these
there was a question about like how it was kind of like how transparent do companies feel like they need to be about their, you know, a candidate experience process basically. And I think, you know, being among the olds as I am, that has definitely improved over time in terms of companies saying what to expect. They're not all doing it, but many of them are. Yeah. But like there's also a lot of shenanigans, right? You just never 100%. Hear back. Like
you know, you yeah, totally. How do you it's the scale, right? And AI is the thing that's making the scale go so high. You know?
My favorite moment, again being among the olds, is that someone that I think it was Tim. We talk a lot about you, Tim. Thanks for being on our panel. He talked about how people are hiding keywords in their resume, which just reminded me of early SEO techniques and the early internet, right? Like you would have this like thing at the bottom of the page where the text was in white, so it blended in with the background and just like was keyword. What is that called? What's the word?
Anyway, they were like either
sashing their.
They're not transparent, but like they're the same color as the background
so you can't
of
see
the
them
page.
With your eye.
But then the
computer can read it.
Yeah, the crawlers will crawl it and rank your page higher.
Stuffing. That's the word. Keyword stuffing. So people are doing that with their resumes.
I would have never have gotten there.
Did this not do it?
No.
People are doing that with their resumes, and he was like, don't do that, which, yeah, I get it, right? But I also get why people are doing that. It is very difficult to work every single bespoke keyword into your resume and then also have your resume written in such a way that, you know, every bullet that talks about the impact and, you know, like it's hard to do both of those things.
Yeah, 100%. Robin brought up a really interesting thing that I had never heard of. Like if you're mass applying to things either you're not qualified for or you're not reading, I mean, I think everyone's guilty of like, ooh, that company is hiring such and such. That's me. I'm just going to apply to that because like my resume should speak for itself and I don't need to read that. I want that job. Sign me up. But he's saying I think he said he did it or he knows of people who will put random things in the job description as like, oh, when you're applying to this, include like, what was your first dog's name?
So you can tell if somebody, I've seen that. Yeah. So you can tell if they actually did read it. I mean, I'm so empathetic on both sides of this equation because, you know, it's definitely a higher manager's market.
But like, you can't throw your name into the hat. Let's say, for example, you're me. You know what I mean? You have an online resume. Your LinkedIn is relatively up to date. You have a website or whatever, and you see something for the exact position that you hold today at a company that you would rather work for. You can't just be like, hey, me over here, look at all my stuff. You know what I mean? Look at the proof of over 20 years on LinkedIn. It's all there.
Go click in 2 spots. Google and you will learn all about it.
Yeah, Google my name. I mean,
podcast episodes.
Everywhere. I can't throw my name in the hat for something that is a complete match. No, I have to spend 20 fucking hours?
Yeah. Ooh, we're going to have to put the explicit on this podcast, but you're right. You're absolutely right. You're right.
You can bleep me out on Riverside.
I'm not going to bleep you out.
I think we're at this moment, and I think this is why you and I are just like, these are problems that exist for sure, but with AI, the problem gets much bigger, and like it's almost, what do you do about it? You know, it's broken in every part of it.
Do you think it's the same, like, we're in this messy moment in so many ways, right? What specific, Viviana, I think, was our job seeker representative on the panel this time. And I think she had some very specific advice for folks. For what it's worth, it sounds like she spun up a system that allowed her to create, really good applications in something like 10 minutes instead of a couple of hours. Could you remember some of the things she talked about?
Yeah, basically she was saying you just need good prompts. You know what I mean? And writing good prompts.
And we have she made a whole PDF for folks. So we'll link it in our show notes and probably share it in our emails and the socials as well. And you're right. When I looked at it, it was like a lot of good, like, general prompting things to do. What else did she talk about?
She also talked about using AI to practice interviewing. She says she's obviously like utilizing AI as a job seeker in really like technical ways. But she said she's also working with a coach, like a real human. I found that interesting. She's not solving all her sort of development needs with the robot. She's also working with a career coach.
She also said, so people were talking about role playing, like prepping for an interview using AI as like a role play partner. And she was like, I actually don't do that. Like I prefer to work with a person. Which I think, I was not surprised at all that there was a ton of emphasis on human in the loop, like doing your job as a person,
right?
And like bringing your human expertise and human discernment to the party as well. But I thought that was interesting. Like,
yeah,
I think I would, it's a weird world right now.
It really is. It really is. I have a lot of empathy for folks in the job market right now. Yeah.
I feel like I have empathy on both sides. Like, I can't imagine getting 500 resumes in a day. And what if it was like that the person who would be perfect just didn't see the post for a day?
100%. 100%
chance. They also, I think Katie and Elisa talked about it's okay to have a fancy designed resume, but for the ones that you're uploading to systems, it needs to be machine readable. And that that's the same advice. That's
true.
The advice. True. But because you can, like, Canva is very easy to use. It's much easier for people to like make something that looks really cool.
Well, and then you're like, it's very satisfying.
Yeah, you're like, oh, look,
I'm a designer.
But they were all this was like our moment. But they didn't say like, don't you do that. They just said, save that for the warm contacts when when you've met with somebody or you're going in and you're going to give a paper version.
Ooh, how quaint. You're going to an in-person interview.
You made it to an interview.
With a printed resume? What? Do not create a JPEG of your resume and submit it because it cannot be read by the robots. I thought,
also, and that has to be ending soon. We know the robots can now read JPEGs, right? But for right now,
the ATS systems don't have those capabilities. So Tim is a sourcer, and that means he finds people.
Yeah.
I would much prefer, and this was much more prevalent in the 2020, early 2020s, right? I would much prefer for a company to come find me versus applying everywhere and spending the 20 hours per application. And in order to do that, you need to have an internet presence. And the number one thing he said you should have dialed in is LinkedIn. Your LinkedIn should be like top notch. I'm sure there's a bazillion
recommendations.
Right. Use AI. Like, how do I make my LinkedIn like the most spectacular? Write on LinkedIn, post on LinkedIn, do all the LinkedIn thing. Don't forget about LinkedIn, because that is the position you want to be in. You want to be on the
offensive
defense, sports ball.
Offensive.
You want to be on the
offense. You do not want to be on the defense. But offense.
I don't know, sports ball. You want people to come to you. You want people sweating you, not the other way around.
Also like you should always be networking, always have that stuff going.
Networking is hard for people though. Like,
it is hard, but guess what? We have the perfect venue for networking for people, and it is called AI Portland. Right?
Yeah,
and
totally.
Not only are in-person events, I'm just going to make a impassioned plea for in-person events, because not only AI Portland or any of them, not only do you get connections and networking and all that stuff, but like in these times when things feel so scary on so many different levels and people are operating in chaos, like even coming together and talking to people in person, there is relief in that in some way, even if you don't talk about big things. I mean, I was talking about it last night with someone at the event, and he's just like, yeah, it's just so tough out there. But being here and just talking to people and being in community, regardless of what you're talking about, it helps. You know? So you're a job seeker, or you're not even job seeker. Like, you're feeling away in the world. Like, get out there. There's so much happening in Portland, but I'm sure everywhere else it's true. There every week there is a thing you could go to. And if you are an AI Portland friend this week, there is too.
Yeah, I'd say that is 100% true. Also, don't wait until you've been laid off or lost your job to network. Like,
and also don't disappear once you get.
Yeah. Keep coming. Your community values you.
We like you.
It feels a little
either way.
It feels a little transactional when people are your best friend when they're looking for a job, and then you don't ever see them again when they are gainfully employed.
It's true. We know you're busy.
One thing I did take away is that hiring managers have a lot of power in the situation. Like, recruiters are a lot of times being like, oh, could this skill set be comparable to that skill set, and trying to finesse their like absolutely must-haves for these roles and stuff. I think networking, that becomes really important, connecting with hiring managers on LinkedIn and in the real life, so that you're making those connections. You already have a relationship. Yeah, with the people who ultimately will, like, forget the systems. These are the people that will get you into the interview cycles, you know?
Yeah. It's the, I'm going to shout out my dad from 25 years ago, who gave me the advice that, like, you always need to make connections. It's all about talking to people and knowing people.
Your parents are so good. My dad's advice was like, make sure you know how to order a beer in every language and where the bathroom is.
Yeah. What else do you need to know?
Yo quiero cerveza. Donde está el baño? I got it.
Oh,
thanks,
girl.
Dad.
Oh my God.
Thanks, Dad.
That was rough for me.
You and Rosie. Rosie's like, just don't speak Spanish, Mom.
I feel like we could do better, Nicole. I feel like we could work on that. Yes, but back to the sage advice from Ed Birch, my father, right? It's like making those connections, it's networking, it's building relationships. And I think even more now, that's the stuff that gives you an edge. If you already have a relationship with someone at a company that you're interested in and a position comes up, even if it's just an employee, not a hiring manager, they might be able to get you in by referral. That might get your resume looked at maybe for 10 seconds longer than if you just submitted through the front door.
Yeah, I feel like I guess I have a little bit different perspective. The field I'm in is incredibly competitive, right?
Yep.
Design, you have to be really good. Before the pandemic, remote design jobs, there weren't that many. And you really were sort of like, what local companies around Portland do I want to work for? And who do I know that works there, you know? Or Portland, there's always only like 1 or 2 degrees between you and everyone else. But like, it was like, who have I worked with? Who do I know? And it would take you a while to get a job here in town. The pandemic changed all that. And all of a sudden they were handing out design jobs. You know, I could go get an LA job, but still be here, you know? And now it's just like, you can't get a Portland job. You can't get an LA job. You can't get any job. You know what I mean? And it's just like on its head, you know? And it's really hard to contend with that. And really hard to now figure out what you're supposed to do in this moment.
Yeah. Well, we are here for you in whatever way that we can be for those folks who are you know, on the market. I heard last night of some folks making connections about possible positions that are opening with the company. So I know that it works. And, you know, maybe we'll have another event for job seekers in the future.
I think we should. I think we could plant a beige flag in the ground.
A beige flag. Yeah.
Which apparently is a thing.
Green flags. We're green flags all the way.
Okay. Plant a greenish flag in the ground and say we're going to have some more job seeker events this year. We won't just do the one. We'll do more.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea. Can I talk to you? Can I switch gears?
Sure.
And talk to you about
Let me get some more coffee.
My little coding experience this weekend.
Yeah.
Because I still feel I have had in the last 15 months a few experiences where I've done something with AI and been like, oh, like either that helped me out a ton or oh shit, what have we done moment, right? And I had one of those this weekend and I did write about it, but I feel like I want to talk about it more. So for folks who don't know me, I have a software development background, but it's been a while, right? I don't write code anymore on the regular. Also, I do weightlifting. Those are things you have to know for this story, right? So many years ago, I wrote a little app to calculate the weight on a barbell because it's hard to count plates when you're working out. And as a coach, people would always ask me to count their plates and I'd be like, literally, I don't know, looks like a lot, right? So I made a little thing in CodePen because I wanted to brush up on my JavaScript skills. It was hard. It took me a while because I haven't done it in a really long time, but I got it done. It was ugly as hell. And I could never get it out of CodePen because I just didn't have the time or the energy to go where am I going to deploy it? Where am I going to what do I need to do to make it its own standalone thing? So I just always just used the preview in CodePen. And the UI was bad. I wanted to make it better. But I didn't want to ask my good friend Nicole to help me, and I wanted to try to do it. And it again, side project, not super important. This weekend, I was on a bus chaperoning Mountain View High School Wind Ensemble. And I had a 4-hour bus ride ahead of me. I had been listening to the folks at Hard Fork talk about these new coding tools. I've tried a few of them. I don't know if you've tried some just generating code with just the frontier models.
Yeah. But mostly it's just little snippets. You know, I have not been make me a full app.
And I also felt like it kind of ran into the same problem I had with CodePen, which was like, cool. So I got the code for an app. Like, where am I going to put this? And like, I set up a repository and like, this just, I don't know. It all feels like points of friction. I had done that too. I had also used it just like last week to try and write some VBA for a word macro, which is actually a domain I know like a weird amount about from a previous job. And it never worked. Like it just, I kept going back and forth with Claude, never got the thing to work, finally just gave up because it was just like, what's the point? Can do a find and replace. That's what I was trying to do. So on this bus ride, I pulled up an app called Lovable, and it allows you to generate applications using prompts, so natural language. And I was like, I'm on this bus ride. It's dark. Let's chill it out. Like, let's try it. So, of course, I know a lot about the app I built. So, the weightlifting app. So I'm very easily able to write a pretty concise prompt about like how it should work generally. And dude, Nicole, I wasn't even out of the city of Bellingham, which is where we started. And I had a functioning app in a GitHub repository, right? Like where I could go look at the code and see if it was crap or not. And after I made it, I like closed my laptop and I sat there and I was like, oh my God, like this is, I see it now, because all the code stuff I've seen before has been very assistant-like just like, give me, look up some stuff, give me maybe fill out a function or whatever. It wasn't so like full featured, I guess.
Yeah, I think, okay, in order to have that aha epiphany, and this is true of all the sort of like very staunch, like, I tried it. It's terrible. You go to Lovable and you'll see 5 million habit trackers. And you're like, what?
Right. Cool.
Oh, we need more habit trackers.
In fact, we did, right? You and I looked at Lovable before.
I know.
And you were like, these apps are stupid. And
yes.
I was like,
and I was like,
next.
So in order to really see where this technology is taking us, you have to be like, I have an idea. I'm going to go try and build that like you did. And then you'll be like, whoa, now I have an app.
Yes. And the thing is, like, there have been no code solutions out there. Like, you know, the thing that really intrigued me was the first of all, the code. Again, I'm not a working software developer anymore, but I can look at it and I can look at it as well constructed. Doesn't look like there's a lot of like, you know, bloat or things in the code that like functions that it would never call, or parameters that look really weird. The structure of the files seems good. You know, I did look at like the page weight. It wasn't horrible. I did a web page test on it. Like the performance wasn't all green, but it was like 1 or 2 things, you know, and I hadn't really refined it at all. So that I thought was very interesting. And like, I could see how you could enable like skilled product managers or project managers who have been working in software, so they understand how to like issue a really well-structured prompt about what they're trying to do. I could see them being empowered now. And if like they could issue code to a GitHub repository, then maybe a developer could pick that up and maybe all they have to do is make some changes to it. Maybe they just have to integrate it. Imagine that these tools have your linting, your style guides, things like that. It seems like it's more possible.
So I just can't help but like divorce myself from my experience as a designer working with developers and engineers in this moment where a lot of our job is to go to engineers and be like, good UX, how about XYZ? Oh my gosh, look. And they're like, that's hard. I can't do it. Like, no, here's all the reasons. No. And here's the bad UX that I would like to implement because of all this technical reason above your head. And then like to be like maybe more empowered to be like, no, actually it's really easy. Like here. I mean, that's why I learned to code in the first place, was like, pretty sure
that's the same language.
One line of CSS, dear developer, you know? But like,
You're speaking the same language. You're communicating in the same
or you're
medium.
like, I built a prototype to sort of show how this should work and function. I built it with my friend AI. Here's exactly what I'm trying to build for the user, you know?
Yeah. I think like definitely I can see the world where now people are more enabled to speak in the same medium. But I can also see the world where it can actually be productive code. This app generates React and TypeScript and stuff. I could see a world where it's, generating whatever it is that your company uses.
Yeah.
And I mean, it issues every prompt I gave where it made code changes. It issued a human readable commit. So I could go in and be like, oh, that didn't. I could undo it from GitHub, or I could use prompting to do it.
I think there's all sorts of shades of gray in this. I think it's really easy to look at it and be like, whoa, engineers, developers, watch out, but like, how do you get that code into existing systems?
Yeah.
How, like, is that app like ready to be released into the app store? And like,
right.
You know what I mean?
Like, error handling is on this app.
100%. Right? Yeah. After your
it's not production ready.
Yeah, after your weightlifting one, I took some screenshots of like a design I made and was like, make this, you know what I mean? And it did, and I could click around and it worked. I was like, oh, but it didn't like look exactly, but again, I'm a designer, so of course it's not going to look exactly like how I would want it to. Yeah. But like, that's not ready. There's still, like, you would still need someone, a craftsperson, to make sure that it was ready. Like, and this is always true, humans write terrible code. Humans design ugly things.
You should
see
know
what I mean?
My V2 of my bar counter app. There's bad code in there.
Yeah. So I think, these folks are still very much necessary and going to remain necessary.
100%.
We just might need less of them. You know what I mean? And we might be able to move faster than ever before.
I think so. The integration points are real points of friction, right? Like, still my example is very isolated, right? Like, you're right. It's not production ready. I don't even know what kind of error handling is happening. I'm sure I can get in some weird states, although there's not a ton of input. Those points of friction really are still a thing. But I think about these tools in the hand of a really capable engineer, right? So now instead of them having to toil around with writing utility functions or, like writing just the stuff that like just takes their time, they could now actually think about what the problem is they're trying to solve.
That is the dream, right? That's where that's when you get to a certain point in your career, right? Those are the things you're doing. You're doing more strategy. You're doing more connecting of dots and problem solving and stuff like that. That's like where senior level folks, evolve to if you're evolving in your career. Yeah. It's just all the stuff down below,
Well, and if that is the skill set that is necessary in this new world where we have assistants that are able to like generate the routine stuff that we're doing, how do you develop those skills if you're not already doing that stuff? And that is like a fundamental workforce question, right? If it is that sort of higher level stuff that in order to get there, you have had to spend some time in the trenches. If you don't have to spend time in the trenches, how do you get there? And I don't know the answer. And it's one of the reasons why when I am 100% not saying, oh, I see it, we don't need software developers anymore, right? No, but it just raised a ton of questions because I could finally see what people have been saying in a way that I hadn't been able to see yet. And so I was confronted with the like, what does it all mean thing on the bus just outside of Bellingham, and I couldn't talk to anybody. I was like, nobody wants to know. Nobody around me wants to have this moment with me. I still needed somebody, and that somebody was you, Nicole.
It always is.
It always is.
I'm always here for you.
We need to wrap. I did want to put a quick shout out that we are looking for some volunteer help. So if you have made it to this point in our 19th podcast episode or whatever it is.
Wow.
You might be the kind of person who could help us with our social media stuff for AI Portland. We have a lot of this kind of stuff, a lot of posts and things like that we just can't do all of ourselves, me and you. So if you're interested, we'll put a little linky loo.
Yeah,
Right.
I think you would have had to made it through the end and not been like, no, to these two women.
That's true. Like, again, you who are still watching, you are our best candidate.
Yeah, you really are. You really are. You don't know, you don't care about social media, you don't know about social media, but you made it to the end. We need you.
Also, in your application, tell us the name of your favorite dog.